You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Countdown to next month's draft up in Green Bay. Matt Miller, I presume, will be there, ESPN draft analyst. He's on Twitter at NFL Draft Scout. You'll give him a follow. He joins us now. Matt, we appreciate it. How are you?
We'll be there, and I'm hoping for warm weather in Green Bay in late April. We'll see.
April, you got to get lucky, right? I mean, late April in Green Bay, it's got to be okay, yeah?
That's my hope. We
right.
had good weather in Detroit last year, so fingers crossed.
Fair enough. Yeah, since the Combine, you put out your recent top 50 big board, and you got LSU tight end Mason Taylor making his debut at number 39 on the big board. What did you like about Mason that had him jump up into your top 50?
Yeah, I think he's just a prototypical NFL tight end, right? His ability to play in line, to play flexed out, big catch radius. I mean, he's such a smooth mover as well. So I am a big fan of his. I think, as the league goes to this kind of Y tight end position, he's ideal for that. And he's only going to continue to get better, I think, as a blocker. He's only going to continue to get bigger as well. And I think that's going to help out his game a lot. But I am really just a fan of, watching him in person at the Senior Bowl, seeing him at the Combine. He's just an easy moving tight end prospect.
What's his ceiling in the draft?
As far, I think, late first is possible. That's if we see Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren fly off the board. I think more realistically, probably early round 2 is where I would expect to hear his name called.
The guy that probably is the more controversial prospect, I don't know, Matt, you may tell me different, but it seems like he's one of, if not the most controversial prospect in this class, is Will Campbell, because we've all assumed he's this prototype left tackle, and then you start to hear the buzz about the short arms or the lack of arm length, and so now is he a guard, is he a tackle, is he a top 10 pick, is he a top 20 pick? Where do you fall on the great arm length debate of 2025 with Will Campbell?
It's weird because it does matter, right? And a lot of folks want to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," but there's not a tackle in the NFL with under 33-inch arms who's playing at a high level, right? It's really rare. So I think that's something you have to take into account of. Okay, can he, with his quickness, which is elite, can he beat really the threshold that has been set? Can he be better than anyone else who's been doing it? That's a big what if, right? I think that quickness that he showed at the Combine helps. It definitely answers some questions. But there will be teams that look at him and say, hey, 32-inch arms, you're probably going to be a guard. I think he could be great there. What helps Will Campbell is, fantastic person on and off the field. Only 2 sacks allowed the past 2 years. He's done that in the SEC. It's not like he's done this, in the MAC or something like that. So if you're a team that hasn't needed a left tackle, there's good tape of him playing left tackle for 2 years. If you're one of those clubs that really values arm length, then I think you have to look at him and say, okay, this guy could be an elite guard.
Is there a prospect on the LSU roster that maybe you're higher on than what the consensus seems to be around the draft scouting world?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple. I would say that I'm higher on Braden Swinson, who I think could be a really good edge in the NFL, whether he's playing as a stand-up or with his hand in the dirt. I have a early third-round grade on him right now, which, as far as I've seen, and I'm aware of my colleagues' rankings, that's the highest I think I've seen him. But I thought Savion Jones had a great year as well, and it's funny because they play off each other really well with the power of Jones and the quickness of Swinson. Are both really, really good players. I think they're both ideal for a 3-4 scheme, obviously. But I'm a big fan of Savion Jones in week 1. What do you have? 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and a batted pass. I mean, he was all over the field for them. So it's a really talented LSU team. I mean, going to have several picks in each round, I would expect.
Matt Miller's with us at NFL Draft Scout on Twitter at X. You'll get him there. His latest big board's out at ESPN.com. I'm interested also in Emery Jones as a guy who, before the season, Matt, had some first-round buzz, or maybe mid-late first-round buzz. Certainly seems to have fallen out. What happened with Emery this year that's maybe caused him to slip?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of what teams are looking for, right? You start to look for quickness, things like that. Elite length, elite hand size. I mean, he's a power player. I like that about his game, but I do think he's one of those dudes just because of the lack of agility. You're looking at him and saying, okay, is he a guard? To be 6'5", 312, you don't always see a lot of bend in his game, but the power that he plays with, his ability to control guys once he gets his hands on them, I think he could be a starting guard and a really good one. I have him ranked in the 70s, so I'm still a fan of his. I think sometimes, we get excited about guys early and they don't take that next step. So it's not always that the early scouting reports were wrong necessarily. It's just that you're expecting a guy to improve from where he's at. Sometimes they stay where they are. And so you adjust that grade a little bit and say, like, okay, we thought if he took this next step, he would be a first-round pick or a top 50 pick. Didn't take that step, but still a really good player where he's at.
A couple more minutes here with Matt Miller, ESPN NFL Draft Analyst. You'll get him on Twitter at NFL Draft Scout. By the way, how did you get that Twitter handle? Were you like the second person on Twitter?
Yes, I think so. I always joke. I worked in marketing before I got my job at Bleacher Report in 2010. And it was like, okay, well, people are going to search on Twitter. They're going to search NFL Draft. I want them to find me. So, boom. It's funny. I do have people say I only got my job because of that Twitter handle, and I've worked in this industry for 15 years, so I don't think the Twitter handle has that much power.
A Twitter handle might have a lot of power, Matt. Certainly not
right?
but that's a heady play for sure. A couple more for you. Actually, just for context, I'm curious, how much, like in your experience, when we go through this period, because I think a lot of fans looking, we talked about Will Campbell, for example. You got 3 years of elite level film of a player, but you have the Senior Bowl, and then you've got Pro Day, and you've got the Combine. Like, what is the value for teams in this process, right? Like, you've got the tape, but now you've got Pro Day, workouts, all that. What is the real value in this 2-month stretch here in February and March?
I told someone yesterday, I wish we were doing the draft this weekend because I think it's way too long. And the value is having time to bring guys in. Like the pro days are happening right now. The private visits are going to happen in April. That's the value. It's way too long to overthink things. And I think it's happening to several guys in this draft. Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Luther Burden, just 3 guys in the SEC right there who, if you just talk to anybody who watched college football, like, hey, are these guys good football players? Yeah. Of course they are, right? We've seen them play at a high level for 3 years. Of course they're good football players, but we just have too much time to overthink things. And I keep a sticky note on my monitor. It's sitting right in front of me right now, and it says draft good football players because I think we do get carried away with 40 times an arm length and stuff that doesn't always matter as much as we think it does when we're in the middle of March.
It's great perspective. Before you go, let me get a thought on Jackson Dart because your colleague Mel Kiper mocked Dart to the New Orleans Saints. There's obviously a ton of people here who are very interested in that. Where do you fall on Jackson Dart, who seems to be racing up draft boards? 9 feels aggressive, but where do you fall on Dart?
9 feels aggressive, but he's a quarterback, so anything could happen, right? Ask Falcons fans about Michael Penix last year. My thing with Jackson Dart, I saw him in person against Arkansas. He threw for 515 yards, 6 touchdowns, and ran for another one. I walked out of that stadium in Fayetteville thinking, man, this guy might go in the first round. And it's funny, like watching it happen since then. I have a round 2 grade on him, but if you want to find first round tape from Jackson Dart, it's out there. Like you can find it. It's just that scheme it limits a lot. It makes things easy for him, but he has all the tools, and by all accounts, he's a great young man, and that's definitely going to help him in the draft process.
He is Matt Miller. Y'all get him on Twitter. It's easy to find him on Twitter. He's been around so long, it was still called Twitter back then. At NFL Draft Scout. He's Matt Miller from ESPN. Hey, man, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. I know it's a busy time, man. Thanks for making a few minutes.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.